Welcome to Cocktails and Closes Startup Week. How are you guys? How was your day? How much did you learn from all the incredible panels and speakers? And what an amazing week. We are so honored to be a part of it and headlining the sales and marketing track here on Tuesday the 8th. I am joined by a fantastic group. First, before we jump into the show, I want to thank everyone who has made all of this possible with the unveiling of our new website, our new platform, offerings, and so on. You know who you are. I personally want to thank our team, Jen, Ellen, Kate, Garrio, Allison, all the work that you guys did. Thank you so much. And to our friends at Startup Week for all the work that you do to help make this the most booming startup week in the world, I believe now. Casey, correct me if not. But anyway, this is a first installment of Cocktails and Closers. And the idea is sales is going to extend a happy hour invite to marketing. We're going to air it out. We're having a good time, share some laughs. And at the end, hopefully, provide some nuggets of value for you folks in the founder's seat or the sales or marketing seat or whatever of how the two parties can come together and really make it rain. So we're going to, without further ado, I'm going to let Garrio take over. Garrio is going to be our mixologist today, kind of our host. And Garrio, if you want to take it from here.
Thank you, Mickeli. Let me start by giving a brief introduction to why I'm sitting in this seat. So I've spent my career at this intersection of sales and marketing, and my most recent company I worked for was Fuel Collective, which is a co-working space. So a lot of founders, a lot of small to mid-sized businesses all coming together. In fact, that's actually where I had the pleasure of working with Jennifer Zick. But during that time I was there, you talk with a lot of founders, a lot of small business owners, and one of their biggest challenges as they're trying to grow their business is figuring out how to align their sales and marketing efforts. And that's why we're here, is to really figure out, and again, as Mickeli mentioned, to provide some nuggets around how both sales and marketing and the business can come together to do what businesses are here to do, drive revenue. So with that, I'm going to open up with an introduction. Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind doing us the honor, telling us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Thanks, Garrio, and thanks, Mickeli. It's just an absolute pleasure to be here with you and with all of our friends at Twin Cities Startup Week. This is my 4th year being part of Twin Cities Startup Week, and every year it's been so fun to see the momentum grow, and I've just been absolutely honored and delighted to be part of the lineup. So I'm excited about this conversation. It hits close to home. So who am I? I am the founder and CEO of Authentic Brand. We're based in Minneapolis, and we provide fractional CMO services to growing businesses around the country and now even around the globe. And what we do is help them to overcome random acts of marketing and to make marketing a strategic, sales-aligned, revenue-focused partner in business growth. And we're passionate about working with small and mid-sized businesses. And so this conversation is right at the intersection of everything I love to talk about all day with growing businesses.
And Mickeli, we all know you, but I don't think a lot of people understand your background, from, you're a top performer. I know that, and I've learned a lot from you, both as a mentee or, trainee. So, let's hear a little bit about your background before we dive into, our first question.
You got it, man. Thanks. So I'm Mickeli Bedore. I spent decades in some high-ticket enterprise-level sales for big software companies, Oracle, NetSuite, IBM, Concur, and Verizon. So I was ranked, pretty high and really enjoyed bringing home big deals the way that we now coach it, meaning win-win kind of closing, where the client feels like they got away with something, and our company's happy because we held the profit line. But I did that for many years, and because of Coco, where I met Garrio, had a chance to work remote for IBM and got a chance to meet a ton of incredible founders, creatives, people that were just inventing stuff. I was a corporate guy for so many years, I didn't think that was possible. I couldn't believe it. But they couldn't sell their vision. They couldn't sell their dream. And because of that, they'd have to go back to work at a corporation, or they'd have to give up their dream. And I thought that was BS because I couldn't do any of the stuff they could, but I could help them, close deals. And so Fast forward to now, Closers Media, which used to be BBG, Bedore Business Group. As of this week, we're announcing that officially. We have been the home of Coffee&Closers, now Cocktails&Closers. We also have a platform that we have developed that kind of does what I mentioned earlier, which is a platform that gives founders, sales teams, leaders, everybody, marketing teams, access to top level performing salespeople. And we focus on two different sectors, helping people prospect and getting pipeline filled the right way, and then how to take those deals and bring them to closure. We have some great certified coaches that help us out with that, and it's a dream come true to kind of give back to all those people that were so good for us in the startup community 5 years ago when we launched all this.
Awesome. Well, I mean, let's dive in, Jennifer. Let's start with you. Like, you know, you've spent your career, you know, working with sales and leading marketing teams. You know, historically, why hasn't sales and marketing like gotten along? Like, what's the deal there?
Well, I want to preface by saying that I absolutely love salespeople and sales managers, and not every organization has sales and marketing teams that don't get along, but there is definitely in every organization a natural tension between the two roles because of the different lens through which they understand the business vision and their role in achieving the growth and the revenue behind that vision. And so that tension can either work to your advantage, or it can create a culture that's divisive and competitive against its own self, right? So I've definitely seen a lot of businesses that have intentionally or unintentionally created cultures that are, you know, a revenue house divided against itself, if you will. And it doesn't need to be that way, but it's really important to understand the different roles and how those goals should ladder up and come together. So at some point we'll talk more too about my mixed background career-wise, because I have a little cheat card, because I actually, you know, started my career in sales and sales leadership before branching over into marketing. So I get to speak from both sides of my head on this one a little bit. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Mickeli, how about you? From a sales perspective, what's the deal?
I've been thinking about this since we've been pairing up with, you know, with each other in the marketing community. Here's the thing that I feel that there just isn't a full awareness from either side about what the other really does. Like, if you were to ask salespeople, they'd probably be like, marketing, what does marketing do? They speak in emoji and leave kombucha bottles all over the office, right? But if you ask salespeople, or if you ask marketers what salespeople do, they'll be like, oh, they just golf and swear. That's all they do. So you're like, you know, I think there's just a lack of awareness. And I think both sides are equally guilty of being lazy. Do you know what I mean? Because here's the deal, like salespeople, marketing builds the systems and the narrative that make your job easy. And marketers, sales, we're on the front line every day hearing in the moment intel on what our competitors are saying about us, so on and so forth. So, you know, like Jennifer said, it'd be nice. The goal of this show, I think, is to kind of merge those two parties and work together, because I've seen it when it's done right, and it's incredible. Mm-hmm. But it isn't done right a lot of places, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good segue, Mickeli, because, you know, Jennifer, I'm gonna turn it over to you, because I'd love to hear your thoughts, because to your point, like, you have a sales background, you are, you know, marketing, but you're also a business owner, right? Responsible for revenue. So you're wearing both hats, as well as being responsible for the end result of those hats. So from your perspective, like, what, as a business owner, you know, what should the expectation be of both divisions?
Those two roles and capacities. That's a great question. So you're right. Like, where I sit now, the seat I sit in feels in so many ways like really full circle. Started in sales in a very entrepreneurial startup company as one of the very first employees, right? Sold and sold and sold until I needed to bring other people in and teach them how to sell and build a first generation sales team and keep growing, and eventually inherited the role of marketing. Had to kind of figure that out, and then eventually build a full marketing team, right? And then now starting my business, which is a marketing consultancy as fractional CMOs, but my role in my own business is as founder, owner, head of sales and marketing. So I wear a lot of hats because we're 3.5 years old, and I'm had the privilege of firing myself from all the other roles in the company, right? So I can do what I love best again, which is sales. So that's like my full circle story. But as an owner of an early stage business, speaking to a startup community, I want to acknowledge that Mickeli and I both have had experiences in small micro businesses and in large enterprises. They're different DNA, right? And there's different ways that you can affect alignment and partnership between sales and marketing depending on the universe you're living in. So I just want to speak as a founder of a startup growth business myself to say, if you're starting something, start it right. And the way to start it right is not to think about sales over here and marketing over here. It's to think about your revenue engine. And that revenue engine should be arrow pointed in the same direction. And that direction has to be set by the vision of the company for its growth. The owner, the founders, the stakeholders at the top need to clarify what does healthy growth mean? And then how does everyone fall in line in their parallel work streams and stay connected and accountable and aligned in decision making so everybody knows where they're aiming. So sales and marketing alignment and collaboration is actually a huge opportunity for smaller businesses in a different way than it would be for a large enterprise. That was kind of a really long roundabout way to get to your question.
No, that was great. Mickeli, any thoughts on that?
Well, we talked about this, Jen, post or pre, but like having someone on the show with your background to kind of kick this whole narrative off, is one of our new missions. Used to be to kind of lower the guard of what people thought about salespeople, right? With Coffee and Closers, and I think we've gone a ways. We still have a ways to go, but with this kind of connection, having the community together, and then have somebody who is in the sales seat in marketing. So I don't tell a lot of people this, and I'm not ashamed. I'm actually quite proud. Is I'm a marketing major, and the first real sales gig I had was selling marketing services. So I don't hide it by any means, but that's not the narrative I've chose to tell in this. But so I have a huge affinity for marketing. When we started out, up until we brought on the dream team of Jen, Ellen, and Kate, I did most of our marketing. Do you know what I mean? And so I can tell you right now, when our prospecting or our close coaches work with, these founders, we're working side by side with them, and therefore we have their blessing to go work directly with marketing. And so all the intel that we're hearing from the nose and I'm telling you, competitive intel, we're getting like nuts. Like, here's what they're saying about you. You know what I mean? There's so much value that's being caught in the field in real time, and then we get a chance to bring that back to marketing. I've never had that opportunity before in any of the jobs or companies that I worked for. And I think that's a huge miss. And I hope that changes in the near future, because we've seen it work in real time. We're closing deals faster than ever, but it's because we have a direct path, right? Yeah. A direct connection to marketing, and we work together.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I love it.
And startup and growing companies have a unique opportunity to recognize that and to foster that level of connection as their business grows, instead of just letting it naturally take course. It's like I'm going to probably point to marriage a couple times in this show because I'm an old married lady. We've been married, my husband and I, for 23 years. And one thing you learn about any relationship is that if left just to nature, to itself, unnurtured with purpose, people move in different directions. Systems move in different directions. Things don't naturally grow together and stay connected unless you're purposeful about it. And so as a small business where you literally might be, except during COVID, all under one roof,
yeah.
But in close proximity and close collaboration with each other, that cycle of communication and feedback loop happens naturally. But you have to build a process that fosters it and keeps bringing those stakeholders back together, because the feedback loop between the field level intelligence of the sales organization and the direct customer interactions and the vision casting and the umbrella of love and content support and storytelling that marketing can provide, they live and breathe together. And if they're separated, you have a disjointed brand, you have a disjointed voice, right? So you have to bring those things together. And as we kind of roll through this conversation, I want to talk about some of the roadblocks that I see, the stumbling blocks for small growth businesses that accidentally create division between sales and marketing. Because there are some things that if you're not aware of will set you up to be not as aligned and collaborative between those two functions.
Let's unpack that a bit, because at the end of the day, we are trying to get a good partnership between sales and marketing. That's the outcome, right? And I love the analogy of marriage and commitment, right? So if you're as a business owner, that's your North Star. That's what you want to get to. What are some of those roadblocks that you see that stopping people from getting to that promised land?
Well, one of the things that is kind of a natural consequence for most growth businesses, and I also want to preface with one other thing that you and I talked about, Mickeli, recently, which is when we talk about B2B sales, B2B organizations usually have very deeply invested sales representatives and sales teams who carry the lion's share of negotiation and the detailed relationship management in a multiple stakeholder account where you might be looking at a complex deal cycle and a long-term sale. But then there are B2C businesses that are a lot more transactional, whose revenue team is probably very heavily marketing. They might not even have a salesperson in the company, right? So I do want to acknowledge that our listeners might not see some of these same dynamics if they're not B2B with a complex sales cycle. Mickeli and I, bloop, 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 we have all grown up in the complex sale. And that's kind of the universe that we're talking around today. But one of the things that's true about a complex sale is that as a business grows, when you start a business and you found a company, you have to sell something before you have a business. You have to be able to create, right, engagement. And so sales happens first. And at Authentic Brand, when we come in to talk with clients who are starting to finally recognize the need for strategic marketing leadership, they're not usually a brand new company. They're usually an established business. Like when we come in with that conversation, this company is now 5 to 50 million in revenue, and they have been a sales-driven, often founder-led, great product, great service. They've established something in the market, and now they're scaling even to the next level. And that's when they usually recognize that marketing from a strategic vantage point hasn't really existed in the business. They've been creating what we lovingly now call random acts of marketing. They've been committing random acts of marketing because they're maybe doing some of the things and they've got some of the stuff and they're spending some money and maybe they even have marketing staff. But often in a growing and emerging company, marketing reports to sales. You've got a head of sales and marketing. And in almost every single case where that's true, the head of sales and marketing is more native sales than they are native marketing. So marketing becomes the order taker in the organization. By default, they don't have a level playing field to have an executive strategic conversation with perspective and pushback and negotiation and balancing the points of view between the long-term brand building strategy and the short-term win strategy. So marketing too often, I am now getting to my point, going to land this plane. Marketing too often becomes the order taking, task management, junk drawer of the organization, receiving all the shiny object ideas from all the executives and all the salespeople and all the business unit leaders. And there's no good filter for what should get prioritization, focus, and resources. That's what creates random acts of marketing. And that's what pits marketing against sales because they're not on level footing to bring the strategic vantage points together in decision making.
To reiterate, this is a safe space, right? Yeah. So, Mickeli, I'm sure from a sales perspective, you have another view or side of the puzzle. What are some of the challenges that stop, organizations from working together, sales and marketing work together from your perspective? What are the mistakes that most organizations make?
So now that we're, enterprise, so Jennifer and I have super similar backgrounds, enterprise, then to mid-market or small, 2 to 50 million is about who we're serving over the last few years at BBG and now here at Closers. So we've got a chance to see a lot. And I think in the big enterprise, because let's be honest, there's got to be some there's enterprise people watching this right now, and maybe they want to go start a company. The advisement that I would give to you as somebody who's launched a few companies and now works side by side with founders to help do exactly this is from the beginning, put your sales and marketing people should be in the same, they should be right next, they should be sitting right here. They should be working side by side. As sales is on the phone or whatever, they can look at marketing and go, oof, we just got roasted over, did you know this is, whatever it is in real time. Like that's what, we can do that now, but we couldn't do that before. And I'm speaking of enterprises too, I don't know why on, the marketing team's on the 9th floor, sales is on the 13th floor. We're not even the same stratosphere. That makes absolutely no sense. And so that's something where to Jennifer's point is you've just seen a disconnect because from the start, the two groups have literally and physically been disconnected.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. I don't understand how, sorry, I'm going to go for a second. How can how can marketing support sales and how can sales support marketing if we're not even speaking to one another? And get this, we all have the same metric, which is revenue growth, right? And we all speak for a living. Sales verbally, marketing creatively. Like it still hurts my brain. That's why, the mission behind this, Jennifer, and I know you share this, is we don't always get along sales and marketing, right? But that's not, I don't think that's the two parties' fault. It's the way the system was built, and the system needs to be cracked wide open and put back together again. Because in today's market, where especially right now, we're all virtual, we have no excuse, right? Yeah. We should be working together even more because we don't have to walk down to the 9th floor.
That's right.
I'm gonna call an audible on you guys because we're coming close on time.
Oh, already?
Yeah. Love to hear. Let's assume that the folks that are listening, they are nodding their head vigorously, right? They see the path that we have drawn, and now they're going back to their team, right? And they're trying to figure out how to break down those silos, how to get sales and marketing to at least let's come to the table and rally around a common goal, right? But there's been so much bent up tension for so long that those olive branches, where do we find them? So from sales, what's the olive branch that a sales leader, Mickeli, could bring to marketing to say, let's have a metaphorical drink and, kind of bury the hatchet so we can both start moving together. And Jennifer, same question for you.
I think first thing to bridge the peace would be, please save some of the raspberry LaCroix for the rest of us. That would be awesome. No, I think it goes back to the awareness bit too. And so let me just kind of start with a story. Like, marketing and sales should get along. They just don't. And so we're going to fix that, right? But I would argue that maybe some of our listeners here don't really know what either one actually does. You know what I mean? Like, awareness, like our friend Darren Lynch over at Irish Titan, he said it perfectly. He said, marketing, creates awareness, sales converts awareness, right? But to take it a step further, what does sales actually do? So I'm going to tell a story. Don't worry, I'll make it long. When it was February a handful of years ago, right? And this is one of my, just started thinking about this when I was prepping for this interview, was where have I seen this outside of like what we do at Closers? Where have I seen this come to life naturally? So it was February, it was cold as hell, right? And my wife and I are like, we got to get out of here. So we pop up our computer and bookit.com, something popped up. You guys ever booked there, right? We've been to Mexico, never been to Puerto Vallarta, and there's this whole journey that we go on through Book It. This is the selected thing. This is the reason why you do it. So all this whole buying journey, and we said yes to it. We looked at the pictures, narrative made sense, it spoke to us, boom, right? Now, here's where I'm going to insert sales. So we land, this dude picks us up, right? He picks us up, and we get there, and he drives us to the resort. And we're driving there, and he's asking us all about Minnesota. Never been there, but heard it's nice. Asked us if we ever been to Mexico. Yes, we have. Ever been to Puerto Vallarta? No, we haven't, right? Dude parks, flags his buddy, says, please take care of these bags. Extra careful to take care of these bags, right? And make sure they get them up to their room. Flags someone else over. Hey, this is our first time here. Say hi. Hi, here's some fruity drink or whatever. We have our drink. We sit down, and he says to us, how can I make your experience, how can I make this trip of your lifetime? How can I provide you in my home city the best experience possible, right? So I looked at the pool and I said, I just need the directions to that place where I will sit for 7 days and drink 600 daiquiris, right? My wife, not so much. She wanted to do something every day. So this guy sat with us and he said, all right, here's what you want to do over here. Ask for 25% discount. Over here, show up at about 3 or 4. They'll get you early happy hour. Go here, and the zip lining is great about this time when the sun is right about here. Do you see where I'm tracking here? Yep. We had the greatest vacation ever, and we have been back there. I can't even count on two hands how many times we've been back to Puerto Vallarta to visit our buddy and spend our money at the Rio, right? Reason I'm telling you this is where sales comes in, and because all we get is we get red sports cars, like pistol fingers, you know what I mean? Slick back hair and touchdown celebrations. But in fact, it's that what I just discussed, right? It's to the human point where we need to connect the dots. We need to ask the right questions of, how do I make this the best experience? Have you ever bought something like this before? Oh, you haven't. Oh, you have. What was the experience like? It was poor. Why was it poor? Great. And starting to connect the dots so that the buyer journey is fantastic. It's grabbing resources. So how we can put internal, external to make sure that the entire experience is fantastic, all while towing the profit line for the company to make, the company money, but also make the customer feel like they just had the greatest journey or the greatest experience ever. And I don't think people know that about sales, and I would be shocked if a lot of our startup founders knew that about sales and the value. I think everyone's heard of marketing, right? And I think marketing doesn't get enough credit either. But I just wanted to make that clear. So to answer your question, I don't even remember what it was. But I'll stop now.
Well, okay, so I will put a bow around takeaway. Find your sales counterpart and take them out to lunch and ask them what they do and just listen.
And sales be proactive too, if you're listening. Right? Yeah. It shouldn't all fall on marketing, right? Marketing is a lot. You just heard what we do on the back end. Marketing is equal amount on the front end, right? But what I will say to salespeople or to marketers, if we can bridge, is to say, and I'll part here, is where can we be inserted in your life to make your job easier, right? We're out every day. By out, I mean, we're having customer conversations every single day. We're hearing things that nobody else is in that moment, because how could they? They're not there, right? We're hearing real no's. We're hearing yeses. We're keeping track of all these things to say, all right, I'm going to do that again. Why are we not sharing that with marketing, right? And would that be valuable? I guess maybe that's a question for you, Jennifer, is would that be valuable? I mean,
and if I'm to jump in and kind of answer Garrio's initial question, which is like, how do we create the olive branches? How do we make those connections and build the connective tissue? All right, a few things. So first of all, we have to create communication loops. And that begins with just the simple recognition that you play a valuable role and you have intelligence that would help me. And across the table, you play a valuable role and you have intelligence that will help me. That is where it starts. And if you're living in a work culture that can't start there, get out and find a new revenue job. Okay. And I've been in that culture. I've been in excellent cultures that valued each other's strengths and communicated and collaborated. And I've been in cultures where there are wars all day long about who gets credit for what and who is or isn't justifying their existence well enough. And I'm now old enough to not participate with the latter. So if you're in a culture that is good and wants to do the right thing and treats humans well and values all these different perspectives, come together. Marketing we need to create processes of regular listening to our salespeople. So in some cases, that literally can be close quarter collaboration via Slack, Zoom, or listening in on sales calls. In other cases, it's putting together a very simple way where sales can quickly give feedback, or we're sending out a couple of, they have to be quick hits. We can't ask salespeople to fill out lengthy documents and share lengthy stories. We got to know the people and get the stories and make it easy, but then bring them together, because the real stories from sales conversations should be informing what's part of our marketing content. Because as Mickeli described what sales does with that beautiful illustration of that travel resource that made their dreams come true, what marketing does is not even just the front end of awareness for building new opportunities and revenue, but often the marketing organization is also shepherding the brand as it relates to attracting talent, keeping talent engaged, creating brand in terms of what your office environment looks like, what your crisis communication strategy is in the middle of a pandemic. How are you going to respond to political upheavals going on in the world? Like marketing literally is the connective voice of the brand throughout every single area of the business. Marketing should play a role at looking at what client invoices look like when they go out, and are they user friendly, and do they have the right information on them. Marketing makes sure that your brand shows up as a unified voice at every touch with every stakeholder through every channel at all times. And so the job is not a small job, and the department is incredibly complex. In a sales organization, you have a lot of people who do kind of the same job. They might be overseeing strategic accounts or mid-market accounts, or maybe more transactional, smaller accounts. They might be hunters or they might be farmers. But if you're growing a sales company, you kind of grow them by the prototype and stamp them out. roll after roll after roll and look for high performers. In marketing, you're running a department of a whole bunch of unique talents, creative, content strategists, digital people, analytics. No one person's doing the same job, and somehow you got to knit that symphony together to make beautiful music and create alignment. And so, you know what? We're both living in tough, we do hard work. We do wonderful work, and we have to be in lockstep with each other. So the last thing I would say is that in the history lesson I was sharing of the 20-year transition of the sales and marketing roles and why marketing is now part of the entire customer life cycle, supporting the role of sales in winning and keeping clients and building advocates and telling those stories. One of the things that became new, that's not new, but became new in recent years is this concept of account-based marketing. Working to market strategically into high value accounts that either are current customers or could be customers, and like remarketing those stories that are relevant to that business. And ABM as a not new concept has brought sales and marketing teams together. When I was rolling out ABM in another company, that was when we finally started putting marketers into sales departments to create content specific for those accounts. Like, that's actually how it should be done. Yes, there needs to be brand and communication and employee engagement and brand standards management and creative. But like when it comes to revenue building, if you're working in a high value account relationship of a land and expand, you should be having marketing sales teams combined into revenue organizations with clear directives on what healthy growth looks like, and then go get it and like love each other for the differences you bring to the table, because that's what's going to win.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. It's the thing that I'm hearing echo between the two comments that you both shared is, let's be human first. Let's really respect each other, respect the skills, respect the effort that's being it's needed to do each other's roles, but come together as humans around the common goal, which is revenue.
Yes, and assume positive intent. I mean, most of us come in, if you ask a marketer, what are they trying to achieve? They're not trying to achieve a land grab of recognition that derails sales efforts. Promise you that. They're not trying to be the hero so that sales doesn't win. We're trying to help grow revenue and make salespeople successful and make our companies successful, right? And you ask sales what they're trying to do. They're not trying to undo good brand standards and throw away the organization's, a well-established brand voice. They're not trying to be nasty mavericks, but sometimes they got to be creative in getting a deal done, and they got to make some twists and turns. Like, we all have positive intent. And then we need to recognize the culture that we're working within. Like, is the culture going to work with us to partner well, or is the culture working against us so that we can't bring our best, right? So kind of have to look at the whole thing together. But I'd say if sales leaders and marketing leaders and their teams assumed positive intent, create structures for communication and affirmation that I've heard you, and now we need to make decisions about what's going to be in plan and what's not, and we can agree, then let's get after it. And let's make sure that our incentive and reward systems recognize that the entire revenue organization are the rainmakers. It's not just the person who closed the deal. It's all of the material and engagement structure that allowed that stakeholder group to feel confident in the brand. It's all of it.
That's a great place to leave it.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. This was great.
Thank you so much for inviting me in. This has been fun. Cheers, you guys.
Oh, cheers. Let's have a little toast. Everyone that's at home, raise a glass, right? How do we do? We're going to be kicking it off in about, a couple minutes. We're gonna raise a glass with you. We're gonna open up for live Q&A for about the next 15 minutes. So you're gonna get a chance to talk about sales, about marketing, about founding a company, about anything that you want, because you've got 3 founders in us, and I'm sure there's a ton of other founders watching this too. So stick around, raise a glass, and we'll see you guys in the chat. Happy Startup Week.